In a stunning last-minute reversal, a nurse at the heart of a bitter tribunal against the National Health Service has been completely cleared of all career-ending charges. This wasn't just a simple workplace dispute. This was a David and Goliath battle that cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of pounds and pitted a single healthcare worker against the monolithic power of the state. On the evening of July 15th, just hours before her tribunal was set to resume, Nurse Sandie Peggie received the news that the 4 gross misconduct allegations leveled against her, allegations that had left her suspended, her reputation in tatters, and her career hanging by a single thread for 18 agonizing months, were not upheld. The system had blinked.
Today, we're going to dissect this extraordinary case, a story that goes right to the heart of the most divisive cultural debates of our time. What exactly were the terrifying allegations designed to silence Sandie Peggie? How did the National Health Service in Fife, Scotland, justify spending a staggering sum of public money defending a case they would ultimately abandon in disgrace?
And what does this monumental victory mean for the ongoing, ferocious debate over single-sex spaces, freedom of speech, and protected beliefs in the United Kingdom? This is a story of immense pressure, institutional secrecy, and the quiet, unbreakable resilience of one woman who refused to be crushed. Let's rewind to where this all began, because the setting itself is deeply poignant. It was Christmas Eve 2023, a time when most are with family, a time of supposed peace and goodwill. But inside a Scottish hospital, a confrontation was brewing. In a space designed for privacy, dignity, and safety, a female-only changing room. For women, especially in a medical environment, such spaces are sanctuaries. They are a place to decompress, to be vulnerable away from the pressures of the ward and the public eye. Nurse Sandie Peggie raised a complaint about sharing this intensely private space with a transgender colleague, Dr. Beth Upton. This single act, this expression of discomfort, rooted in a belief in the importance of single-sex spaces for women, would ignite a firestorm that consumed the next year and a half of her life. By January of 2024, Sandie Peggie was suspended from the job she had dedicated her life to. A suspension isn't a holiday. It's a professional purgatory, a black mark that casts a long shadow over a career built on trust and competence. The institution she served had turned on her, and the fight for her professional life had begun. But Peggie, in response, didn't just accept her fate. She lodged her own complaint, a formal grievance of sexual harassment or harassment related to a protected belief, invoking the powerful 2010 Equality Act. This elevated the conflict from a personal dispute to a landmark legal challenge, a test case for the rights of women to maintain their own spaces and for individuals to hold gender-critical beliefs without fear of reprisal. Meanwhile, Dr. Upton also made an allegation of bullying and harassment against Nurse Peggie, setting the stage for a complex, emotionally charged, and deeply personal legal battle. The full weight of the National Health Service apparatus, a gargantuan public body, was brought to bear on Sandie Peggie. She wasn't just facing a disagreement with a colleague, she was facing 4 distinct, severe allegations of gross misconduct, a label designed to destroy a professional reputation permanently. Let's break these down because they reveal the deeply troubling strategy at play. 2 of the allegations, perhaps the most conventional, related to supposed patient care failures. One must critically question the timing and nature of these claims. In the midst of this heated ideological dispute, did these sudden concerns about her professional competence arise organically? Or was this a classic and deeply cynical tactic of institutional pressure, digging through years of service to find any potential error, no matter how small, to discredit, intimidate, and break an employee who had dared to challenge official policy? The other 2 allegations were directly tied to the core of the conflict. One was for her encounter with Dr. Upton in that changing room on Christmas Eve. But the most chilling allegation, the one that speaks volumes about the current workplace climate, was an accusation of misgendering Dr. Upton. Think about the profound implications of that for a moment. An alleged verbal slip or the use of a pronoun deemed incorrect by another person was elevated to the level of gross misconduct, an offense considered so serious it could warrant immediate dismissal, putting it on par with theft, fraud, or physical assault on a patient. This is the reality of the ideological minefield that many professionals are now forced to navigate, where words can be weaponized and careers can be destroyed overnight, not for what you do, but for what you say or believe. If you believe that no one should face the potential ruin of their career for voicing a protected belief or for an alleged verbal misstep in a high-pressure environment, take a moment to hit that like button. It sends a powerful message that these fundamental issues matter to us all. While Sandie Peggie was fighting for her professional survival, the institution she was up against, NHS Fife, was fighting a battle of its own, a battle for secrecy. As this case rumbled on, journalists and watchdogs began asking a very simple and very important question. How much is this costing us, the taxpayers? How much public money is being funneled into this employment tribunal to pursue a single nurse? The response from NHS Fife was anything but transparent. They resisted, they obfuscated, they failed to comply with freedom of information requests, building a wall of silence to hide the true cost of their crusade. It took the direct intervention of Scotland's Information Commissioner, a formal and serious rebuke, to finally force their hand. And when the number was finally revealed, it was utterly staggering. £220,000. Let's pause and truly comprehend that figure. £220,000 of public money. What else could that money have bought? The average starting salary for a nurse in Scotland is approximately £28,000. This means NHS Fife spent the equivalent of the full annual salaries of nearly 8 brand new nurses. Imagine that, 8 nurses who could be on the wards right now, caring for patients, reducing punishing waiting times, and saving lives. That money could have paid for dozens of life-changing hip replacement surgeries, or funded thousands of hours of critical care in the emergency room. Instead, that money was spent on lawyers and legal fees to pursue one of their own employees and to defend opaque policies that were being challenged. This isn't just a personnel issue. It is a scandal of public funds, a shocking demonstration of an institution willing to spend whatever it takes to enforce its ideological position, even at the direct expense of the public services it is sworn to provide. So much for their commitment to transparency. But as this costly and secretive local battle raged, a monumental event took place on the national stage that would change the entire context of the debate. It was a legal earthquake that shook the very foundations of the case against Sandie Peggie. The initial tribunal hearing, which had lasted for 10 exhausting days in February, was adjourned. In the weeks that followed that adjournment, the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, the highest court in the land, delivered a landmark, unanimous ruling. They powerfully backed the biological definition of a woman within the meaning of the 2010 Equality Act. This was absolutely seismic. It meant that the belief held by Sandie Peggie, the very belief that she was being punished for, the belief that sex is real, biological, and immutable, was not just a fringe opinion or a personal phobia. The Supreme Court confirmed it was a belief with a solid legal foundation, recognized and explicitly protected by the law of the land. The very ground had shifted under NHS Fife's feet. They were no longer just fighting a suspended nurse. They were now fighting a nurse whose core philosophical position had just been implicitly vindicated by the most powerful court in the country. The legal and moral authority they had presumed was suddenly on much, much shakier ground. It adds a powerful layer of context to their sudden decision to drop all charges against her. Was it a sudden attack of conscience or a cold, calculated legal decision that their £220,000 case had become utterly and humiliatingly unwinnable? The climax of this 18-month ordeal arrived with breathtaking speed and high drama. On the evening of Tuesday, July 15th, with the tribunal set to resume the very next morning, Sandie Peggie received the confirmation she had been fighting, hoping, and praying for. Following a disciplinary hearing on June 25th,
Fife Health Board had concluded that none of the gross misconduct allegations against her were upheld. The patient care allegations? Gone. The allegation about the changing room incident? Gone. The deeply controversial, speech-chilling allegation of misgendering? Gone. All of it dismissed.
In a statement, her lawyer conveyed her feelings perfectly. Sandie is relieved and delighted that this 18-month-long internal process has concluded and cleared her of all allegations. It was a total and unconditional victory, a complete vindication for a woman who had been put through an unimaginable professional and personal hell. But this story is far from over, and cases like this, touching on the raw nerve of modern social debates, are emerging with increasing frequency. To make sure you don't miss our deep dive analysis on the next major development in this and other crucial stories, take a second to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. It's the best way to stay informed. So where does this leave us, now that the dust is beginning to settle? Sandie Peggie has been cleared, but the story is not finished. In a delicious twist of irony, the tribunal that was scheduled to hear the case against her is now set to resume to hear her case against NHS Fife. The tables have well and truly turned. The hunter has become the hunted. The focus now shifts from her alleged misconduct to her very real allegations of harassment and discrimination. What will be revealed when the health board is the one in the hot seat? Their policies and actions under the microscope. Will there be any accountability for the £220,000 of taxpayer money spent on a case that collapsed at the 11th hour? Will any individual director or manager at NHS Fife be held responsible for the decision-making process that led to this costly and damaging affair? More broadly, this case serves as a powerful national precedent. It sends a clear and resounding message to employers across the country, both public and private, that beliefs protected under the Equality Act are not to be taken lightly, and that attempts to silence or punish employees for holding them can have serious legal and financial consequences. The battle fought by Sandie Peggie in a corner of Scotland has resonated nationally, posing fundamental questions we must all grapple with. What is the true meaning of tolerance and inclusion in the workplace? Does it include tolerance for diverse viewpoints, even those that challenge current orthodoxies? And how do we balance the rights and protections of all individuals while robustly protecting the hard-won rights of women to have their own safe, single-sex spaces? The personal fight is over for Sandie Peggie, but for the rest of society, the vital conversation she helped to ignite has only just begun.